Hello my dear YouTuber friends, and I do hope you're all keeping well. Welcome to this new video, which is Back to Basics Part 14, Vatsim. A quick overview, what is Vatsim for those who don't know? I'll be explaining that in this video, and then we'll be taking our first steps in Microsoft Flight Simulator in Vatsim, learning the basics of it. Okay, so let's not dilly-dally. Let's get on with the video. Okay, so what is Vatsim? Now, just be aware, for those who want more advanced tutorials, this is a very basic, your first steps, basically, into the world of Vatsim. More advanced tutorials will come later, flying, radio control, talking to controllers, and flying with other people, later on in other videos, but this is very much your first steps. Okay, so Vatsim is basically player-controlled ATC. And you'll be flying with other players on the Vatsim server, specific servers set up Vatsim servers. So everybody on those servers will be obeying and talking to ATC. Basically, it's like a real life ATC controllers, and you have to learn some terms and terminology, that type of thing. Okay, so to get started, and this is specifically for Microsoft Flight Simulator, I'll link this website down below. Just go Getting Started with Vatsim, click there, and then just read here, you must use your full and correct first and last name. Don't use pseudonyms for this, use your correct names. Vatsim holds that information, it doesn't share it with other Vatsim pilots and goodness knows what. If you have a Vatsim account already, you have to use that one. If you're watching this video, it's likely you don't. 13 years and older, and goodness knows what. So basically, just fill in your first and last name, an email address and password. Quite straightforward. Your age range, choose an age range there. Country, it's quite obvious, isn't it? You can just go, let's do this with you. I'm in the UK. If I can find it, United Kingdom. And then you type in where you are. I'm in London at the moment, for example. Password reminder. Anyway, this one here, choose region. Obviously, if you're in the UK, Europe, Middle East, click on there. And then you can type choose here rather from this drop down box UK. If you're in America, choose Americas, and then choose United States, etc, etc. So Asia, Pacific, then choose Japan, Korea, Australia, wherever you are. And then basically when you filled all these in correctly, you just go, I've read this, and then register. And then I'll show you what comes next. So when you've filled in all that information, you've registered for an account, you'll be sent an email with your Vatsim ID. When you come to log in, you've got to verify that email. Then you come to log in. That CID is your Vatsim ID, and the password is the password you supplied. So we'll just click login there. It will log you in, and then you'll get all these resources for free. It's completely free, Vatsim. And I should have mentioned at the beginning, this is really for PC only. It's a client that connects over PC only. So it will only work currently with PC Microsoft Flight Simulator. Do keep that in mind. When you get into this dashboard, so you've logged in, verified your email address and logged in, just scroll down, and I would go to Learning Center first because you get a lot of great resources here. Got things like Vatsim Basics. So we'll go from left to right here. Vatsim Basics, just left click on the arrow there and go to Member Rules and Conducts. It's probably something you should have read before signing up. It's just things like be courteous, don't spawn on runways. Read through this at your own leisure. Certainly, you know, the various different things, rules and conducts and agreements, sort of basically Vatsim agreement before signing up. They're all available for you here too, but do read through them so you're not gonna make a fool of yourself and get kicked off the VATSIM service, essentially. So when you've read through all that, next thing to go to is Pilot's clients. Get connected. Now, basically, it uses an extra piece of software to connect to the VATSIM service. If you're watching this, you're likely flying Microsoft Flight Simulator. If you are, there's only one client available for us. You've got XPilot for X-Plane and this other client, Swift, for Prepared 3D and X-Plane and goodness knows what. But the top one is the only one available for Microsoft Flight Simulator. Just click on the link, left click. It will open up in a new website, a VPilot website. In here, just go to download. And download this. I'm going to do this with you because you may encounter similar problems. Left click to download. It may come up like it did for me. It's downloaded. Make sure you trust VPilot. What you have to do here is go to these three dots. Hover over it. Go to the three dots. And go keep. Show more. Keep anyway. It's just asking you to make sure you trust it. It's fine. And once that's fully downloaded, you can open a file. I've got it up and open already and running, so I can actually delete that because I've downloaded VPilot already. But just open that. And what I'll do, I'll come back to VPilot a little bit later in this video. So carrying on with the Learning Center. You've got things like choosing a call sign. I'll come back to that later when we open VPilot as well, so we can do that in one hit. But go through all these sorts of Learning Center articles, aviation knowledge. There's lots of things here. Principles of flights. Let's click on that. There we go. And it will give you lots of reading material for free here, which you can read at your own leisure. Lots of reading material, which I'm still working my way through. Aviation skills, IFR communication, VFR communications, goodness knows what. Master classes. So we can go to communications. There's actually a great video here that you can watch at your own leisure too about communications and goodness knows what. So there's lots of articles to get your teeth into in the Learning Center. Another thing you probably will certainly get when you first sign up, it'll keep coming up, are you ready to take your first exam? I'll just click my exams. It's basically a new member orientation test. Very straightforward, just basic common knowledge, basically common sense knowledge. I passed it. I got a couple of questions wrong. I won't view it because it will show you all the questions and answers. And I don't think VATSIM will like me doing that, so I won't do that. But it's very basic. I passed it with just 2 questions wrong. Take that. I'm not sure if you need to pass that to stay on the VATSIM server. You may, but it's a very basic test, so just take that. So, okay, once you got through all that and you've got VPilot installed, let's now jump to VPilot and let's set that up so we can connect to the VATSIM service. And on to running VPilot. Like I showed you before, I showed you how to download this and trust it and keep it. Once you have it downloaded, just run it and you'll get a little box pop up like this. First time running it, it'll probably say, looks like the first time you're running this application. Do you want to go to settings? If not, just click on the settings tab here. And essentially you get this little box pop up, network, VATSIM ID. When you registered for VATSIM, that'll be your VATSIM ID. Pop it back in there again. Your VATSIM password, what you set up to register for VATSIM in the first place, put that in. Your full real first and last name, and your home airport, which can be anything. I've just chosen Heathrow Airport, EGLL, and your VATSIM server. Where are you in the world? I'm in the UK, so I've chosen the UK. Notifications, highly recommend you leave these ticked by default. This is all ticked by default. When I'm running Flight Simulator, so say Flight Simulator was open on this window here, I've got this down in my taskbar VPilot. When I get a message, it will flash. As you can see there, flash when new private message, special message, and goodness knows what. And essentially in VPilot, when you get a message, it'll either open here in a new box or here, and you can read the messages and reply to them by text. So I recommend leaving all these ticked by default. This was unticked by default, show incoming messages in an emulator. It's up to you, but I've just left these ticked and set by default. Fonts, I've left these by default. You can change them if you want. Audio. Obviously, this will be your microphone device and your levels set here, and your output device and your levels down here. So you can test these and make sure these are set up. I've got my headset on at the moment, so this is set up to receive my headset, and as you can see, my volume levels are fine, and when I'm listening to ATC, I can hear them as well. This one here, disable realistic ATC audio effects. Now, a bit of an understatement here, but when people are talking on Vatsim, both controllers and pilots, they can be extremely difficult to understand at times. If you have this enabled, it will give a crackling like a real radio, and it makes it much more difficult to understand people. If you're used to it, then fine, you can leave it. By default, it's not ticked. I'd highly recommend that you disable that realistic ATC audio effects. Otherwise, you're going to have a hard time like I was having when I first ran Vatsim. It's up to you. I'm going to show you both options later, how it sounds with both options, so with it enabled and disabled. But when you're first using Vatsim, I'd highly recommend disabling realistic ATC audio effects, but it's a matter of taste. Push to talk button, you've got to set up a button to push to talk. What this does, I've set up my left control on my keyboard. When I want to talk to ATC, I've got to hold down my left control button before ATC can hear me. When I release my left control, they can no longer hear me. So when I'm in Vatsim later, which I'll show you, when I'm talking to you, ATC hopefully won't hear me because I've not got my left control pressed down. When I do talk to ATC, I'll hold my left control down. It's up to you what button you set to this. I've just got left control key. It suits me. You could set up a button on your flight controller, which may be much easier for you. That's up to you. Model matching I've left by default. Performance, this was set to 40 nautical miles. So basically, if I've got Vatsim aircraft flying around me, beyond 40 nautical miles by default, you won't be able to see them. I've just upped this to 100 nautical miles. So if I've got aircraft flying over 100 nautical miles away from me, I won't see them. If it's 100 nautical miles near me, I should be able to see them. You can set that to the way you want. If you've got a weaker PC, maybe leave it alone. If you've got a PC that's okay with Flight Simulator like my own, just up it a bit. That's basically a matter of preference. Updates I've left by default, I've left it alone, and miscellaneous I've left at default as well. So with settings done, with all that set up, the only thing to do now is to run Flight Simulator and connect. I'm just going to show you something here before I do connect to Flight Simulator. When you click connect, so let's just click that again, go to the connect box, left click it, you'll get a new box pop open. These will be blank. Call sign. How do you choose a call sign? Well, go back to your Vatsim, myvatsim.net. Go to your Learning Center. And then just go to Vatsim Basics. Left click on the tab there. And go choosing a call sign. I'd recommend that you fly an aviation aircraft when you're first getting used to Vatsim. Don't go straight in with an A320 or the 146 or Concorde or goodness knows what. Fly an aviation aircraft to get used to listening to Vatsim first, but then we have to choose a proper call sign. So go down to here in Learning Center. Vatsim Basics, hover over choosing a call sign, go to General Aviation, Cessna 172, 152, Grand Caravan, that type of thing. Choose one of those aircraft would be my recommendation. Read through this at your own pace and own leisure. Essentially, it's saying it needs a two-part. You need the country prefix to begin with, and then your aircraft registration, which can be whatever you want. Country prefix, what is that? Well, if you click here, country prefixes, and go down to this linked website here, left click, it will show you the country prefixes for where you are in the world. Obviously, I'm in the UK, so mine will be G. If you're in the United States, yours will be N. If you're in Uruguay, CX, etc., etc., Ukraine, UR, Uganda, 5X, which is quite interesting. But I'm in the UK, so mine's going to be G. So going back to that box, first part of my call sign, I'll put G, which will be Golf. And then I can put whatever I want. Remember to use a phonetic alphabet when communicating with ATCC. Because I'm Hodgson, I'm going to choose HUDD. So Golf, HUDD. So that'll be Golf, Hotel, Unicorn, Delta, Delta. You learn the phonetic alphabet as well. Peruse in the Learning Center. I believe there are articles on it in here somewhere. Learn the phonetic alphabet and learn your call sign so you can communicate to ATC correctly. So there you go. That's my call sign. That's what I've chosen. G for the country prefix, England or the UK, and HUDD. Aircraft type. I'm going to be flying the Cessna 172, so I'm going to start typing in Cessna. A drop-down menu will appear here once I start typing it in. Just going to find Cessna 172 Skyhawk. That's what it is in Flight Simulator. So there you go. Cessna 172. You can leave that last box as blank. You don't need to fill that in. Once you've got that filled in, the only thing you need to do then is run Flight Simulator and then you can connect. And I'm going to show you that now. Okay, so we've got the sim loaded up. Before we connect, before we go to this box here and connect, a couple of settings you need to set up in Flight Simulator to ensure you get the best performance with Vatsim and to make sure it works properly. First thing you should do is go to Options, go to General Options, and then in General Options, look for your Traffic tab to the left here. Go into that. You want aircraft type. You don't want any AI aircraft spawning. So if you're spawning into gates and other players are spawning on gates, you don't want to be spawning on top of an AI aircraft that you normally find around airports if you have this turned on. So turn this off and turn ground aircraft density to 0 so you don't get any AI aircraft showing. So that's off, aircraft traffic type, and ground aircraft density down to 0. The aircraft vehicle density, I've turned these down to 15, so I don't want many ground traffic, little cars and little workers. I don't want too many around because they can be quite distracting, especially when you're in Vatsim. So turn these down, or you can turn them off completely. That's completely up to you. So you want that off, down, and then turn off, off, basically, and turn these down. Okay, let's go back. Let's go to the world map. Now, I've made a slight change to that. I was going to spawn off Heathrow. At the moment, there's a controller at Heathrow. It's just not a busy airport for whatever reason at this time of day. I know Gatwick seems to be a little bit busier with help. So I'm going to spawn into Gatwick, and I'm going to spawn in at a gate. So ramp 102 here. Set as departure. Just so I'm away from the main hub, as I'll just be observing and listening to ATC in this video. Get off, I don't want that on. Another thing you should set up in flight conditions, make sure your multiplayer is set to off group only. If you have it set to all players, it won't work in Vatsim. Have it to group off in multiplayer, and AI air traffic off as well. So, and also, if you're listening to ATIS, it's going to make sense if you're in live weather. So we can close that. I've got the Cessna 172 Skyhawk selected here. Ramp 102 at Gatwick Airport. Let's go fly. Okay, chaps, apologies. I've actually spawned back into Heathrow Airport. I've just been having a few difficulties. The observant of you will notice it's a lot later. It's after 8 PM in the evening in the UK at the moment. Had to go back to work. I was having difficulties before. So I thought I'd go back to my original plan and spawn in at Heathrow Airport. Doesn't matter where you spawn in. The important part is, let's go to VPilot here. Let's connect first. So I've got my call sign, I've got my aircraft type, I've gone through that before. Important thing is to connect in observer mode. If you're just observing, click this box and then connect as observer so ATC knows you're not flying. So let's do that. Things will populate on the left hand side here. You'll have all the different frequencies. Lots of them it looks like. Loads of them. Including ATIS, which is very important. I'll come on to that in a moment. While that's populating, one of the things we should do first is go to Flight Plan here. Flight Plan tab. And file a flight plan. Flight type VFR, even though I'm not flying, but I am in a Cessna. Departure airport would be EG Gatwick Airport, EGLL. Destination airport, not applicable, I'm not flying anywhere. In remarks, I've just put I'm new, I'm listening in on conversations to get the hang of things. And I've got my voice on send and receive so I can talk to them. When ATC sees this on my flight plan, they'll say, oh, he's just listening in just to get the hang of things, that's fine, he's not flying anywhere. And I can see I'm in observer mode. This voice thing here, if you want to go to text only, if you want to just type messages and not use your voice, you can do. Don't know how reliable that is, though, and you know, ATC may take a bit longer to get back to you because they're talking a lot to other pilots. But give it a go. Try using your voice, send and receive. Let's just file the flight plan. Flight plan filed, no issues there. Let's move this box down and explain this part of the menu to you. So you've got things like ATIS, which we'll go to first. Actually, let's do that first, right at the beginning. So what I'll do is use my cursor keys to get down to my left G1000. The comm radios are on the right side in your Cessna 172. Depends what aircraft you're flying. I'm going to put it to COM 2, COM 1, COM 2. To do that in the NXI, just hold left click and hold and right click. That'll switch it to COM 2. I'll bring up the Get Heathrow ATIS there, 128075. So I'll just dial that in manually. I would use my radio panel right now if I had it. Unfortunately, it's in storage. I need to go and get it out, and I will do soon, and probably release a video on that. I'll link the video I did on the radio panel in the top right there, so you can go and see what that is, Logitech radio panel, to be mightily useful in something like VATSIM, I can imagine. Am I going the right way here? 128075. So if I make that active in COM2, click on COM2.
Heathrow Information, Quebec. Time 1850 Zulu. Automatic. Arrival runway 27 left, departure runway 7 right. Transition level, flight level 75. Surface winds 270 degrees 17 knots. Visibility 10 kilometers or more, no cloud detected. Temperature +18. Dew point +8. QNH 1008. Acknowledge receipt of information, Quebec, and report aircraft type and current QNH on first contact with Heathrow.
Okay, important things to remember there is it's on loop, but Quebec is the important code word.
Information, Quebec. Time 1850 Zulu. Automatic. Arrival runway 27 left, departure.
So arrival runway 27 left. Let's get to our drone cam. So aircraft's arriving, as you can see one arriving there, it's 27 left. 27 right will be departure. Keep those in mind, write them down. In fact, I'm going to write that down now, so bear with me. 27 left, depart. Arrival 27 right. Even though I'm not going anywhere myself. Sorry, arrival 27 left. And depart 27 right. So when people contact ATC, ATC, the player, the person behind the ATC in Vatsim, will be taxiing them to 27 right and asking people to land at 27 left. All self-explanatory. Let's actually now tune to the tower. The way this works on the left here, you tune into ATIS first. If you're going to talk to radio control to the VATSIM controllers, you want to tell them that you got the information Quebec and your intentions, essentially. I'm not going to fly, but if there's a clearance frequency here, you would tune into that first. If there was a ground frequency, you're working from the bottom up, tune into that first. There's not. There's a tower frequency for Gatwick, so we'll tune into that. That's the next one along. So we'll do that on COM 1. 11850. 118500. Let's get back to COM 1. 118. Wish I had my radio panel. 500. Okay, just bear with me while I just tune to that. And we'll take a listen at what ground is doing. There we go.
Navigate runway 27 left.
Lufthansa 49, second right and Bravo, left to keep those, stand 217.
So there you go, it's giving him information, taxiways he should be taking.
Second right Bravo, left to kilo, stand 217.
This is where something like Navigraph, I'll link the video I did in the top right for you in case you've not watched it. Is it worth buying? Just bear with me 1 second. It's where it's worth getting, because essentially it will give you a load of chart like taxi charts, stands, parking stands. So this is Heathrow Airport parking stands. So if someone says they're taking off from, they're taxiing from stand 323, ATC will vector them along the various runways, Golf, let me see there, Echo, over to probably Alpha here. And departure airport is runway 27 right, which is... Actually, no, it'll go the other way, wouldn't it? It will vector them to this runway.
Average amount of 5 tanks, stand 328 information, Quebec, 108.
There you go, you mentioned Quebec.
And request clearance to mountain away.
So lots of players on. All these aircraft are player-controlled aircraft, by the way. There's no AI now. This is all player control. So they're communicating with ATC. And ATC is vectoring them to various different runways to either take off. This chap here has just landed. That's him, actually, just talking.
313 on gate 3, Lufthansa 4 now.
Lufthansa 42.
Let's see where he vectors him on.
Roger, 323, taxi via left on Bravo, right Echo, right Golf.
Left on Bravo, right on Golf. You say right on Golf? Still getting very much used to this and this. So left on Bravo.
321 via left Echo.
Oh.
Left Golf, Lufthansa 4 now.
Left on Bravo, right Echo,
Right Echo. Golf. There we go. So that's why we're vectoring. So he wants him to taxi up here to Bravo, right on Echo, and then onto Golf here and taxi to his gate. So it's handy to have a chart. If you have to Google this, Google it. Listen to ATC. See where ATC is vectoring aircraft. Get used to it before you go to your first flight. Get used to the terminology. I'm going to try and get a radio check in here if I can. So he should be vectoring, he should be going up here and turning right onto Echo and then Golf, and then going to his gate. Heathrow is an easier airport than Gatwick, so I'm glad I chose this. Let's listen to this one. He's on final. Let's move the camera around. So he should be coming into land ASAP. So he's going to land at 27 left, which is this runway here. Just make doubly sure, shall we? It is indeed. So he should be coming in, and then he should... the ATC or contact ATC saying he's vacated the runway. Where shall I taxi to? Let's do a mic check. Good evening, Heathrow Tower. This is Golf Hotel Uniform... Hotel Uniform Delta Delta asking for a radio check.
Golf Hotel Uniform Delta Delta Heathrow Tower, BBC5.
There you go. It's basically saying 5 out of 5, so my radio's okay. So just jump in and ask him for a radio check if you're a bit nervous. Do that, and do it a couple of times, and then eventually you can start going flying and asking for vectors to runways and goodness knows what.
We are ready, scan 210.
It is a bit nerve-wracking to begin with. You do get used to it.
Clear tracking.
And you're going to make mistakes. I've made a couple of mistakes when I was starting on my very first communications with them. They just kind of, I could feel them inwardly smiling and just say, yep, you're fine, don't worry about it. Typically, I've had some very, very polite radio air controllers. You get one or two snarky comments every now and again. That's just commonplace. Pretty much commonplace in everyday life, isn't it? Let's see this guy coming in. Or not. But you get the idea. Go to your charts. See where the radio control are vectoring people like he did before. Asked him to turn left on Bravo. Even I had to listen to it twice. Right onto Echo, right onto Golf, and then taxi to his gate. Heathrow is easy in that case if you're on one of the gates. If I want to depart, I'm on gate 311 at the moment. No, where's 311? There we go, 311. So I'd probably say taxi on to Bravo. Actually, no, he wouldn't. I've got to go the other way. Probably will say taxi on to Bravo, Echo, turn right onto Alpha maybe, and then taxi onto and hold at one of the gates here, A6, A5 or Pluto or something of that sort. I will be doing a flight, and I'll try and do it from gate 311 as well, just to see how that goes. So there you go. Anyway, that's the general idea. There's also should be your first steps. Just get used to the ATC communications. Don't go to an overly complicated airport. Listen to the communications.
Even to shuttle 16 Victors and
doesn't that look beautiful with the settings sun?
Go back on board the QNH 1008 IFR, please, to Inverness.
Mention your QNH too if you're going to go for a fly. That's fine. I'm not an expert at this, you can probably tell, by any means, but I'm slowly getting into it, and I've read up on it and watched videos, and actually, probably most importantly, I've listened to actual ATC communications. What we'll do now is just jump into the aircraft a second, just so I can turn that off so I can speak. What we'll do now, I'm going to show you how it sounds with realistic ATC noises, just so you get an idea of that. So I'll be back in a moment. Okay, we're back now. A bit of a dummy moment for me. I didn't actually realise in my settings in VPilot I had the sort of realistic radio noises enabled. So what you were listening to before was the interference in the background, realistic interference. I've disabled it now to let you listen to both options. So let me just switch my nav frequency there, or my com frequency.
124 speed 180 knots.
And as you can hear, that's very clear now. What a beautiful picture that is. Listen to a bit of radio chatter as people, you can see aircraft, real life aircraft. So there's people behind us, aircraft taxiing onto aircraft and onto runways and goodness knows what. And parts here ready to taxi. Why is the chatter suddenly cleared up? Isn't that typical? As soon as I hit record, let's get to the other one, switch it.
Shamrock 5-1 November push and stars approved, face south.
There you go. So you can hear that now. So the radio interference or realistic radio noises is disabled in VPilot, and the radio communications come through loud and clear. So it's preference. I can listen to them both and understand them both at the moment, but maybe disable it to begin with and see which one suits you. Anyway, that's my video. Back to Basics 14, getting started with Vatsim. Do let me know your thoughts on the video. Give it a like if you've enjoyed it. Subscribe for more. Many more Flight Simulator videos on the way, including many more Vatsim videos. I want to actually do a couple of Flight Sim Vatsim at least. And I'll be seeing you soon.